Welcome to the Seven Figure Builder Show. My name is Julie Baranek, founder of Seven Figure Builder, where we help high achieving CEOs free up their time with gorgeous analytics to know exactly what's working and not working in their business to scale to seven figures and beyond. And I'm here today with my friend, Krista Frahm. How are you, Krista?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled you're here, and I am super excited about our topics today because they're very relevant for me, and I have lots of things I want to ask you. So first and foremost, where are you in the world? Let's start there.
I am in Chelan, Washington, which is a small town in central Washington State, USA.
Nice. And for those that haven't had the pleasure to meet you yet, can you tell us just a little bit about what you do with your business?
Mm-hmm. I run Krista Frahm Agency, is what it's called. It is a copywriting business and marketing support primarily aimed at health and wellness professionals who are creating online programs, courses, mentorships, memberships, that type of thing.
I love it. So tell me, how did you get into this space? Because there's lots of people that do health and wellness, but not a lot of people have the experience that you do.
Yes. So I was a practicing occupational therapist for 10 years, primarily in adult and geriatric rehab. And I kind of accidentally came upon copywriting. I was volunteering with our school, doing some of their promotional stuff, writing grant letters and donor letters and things like that. And they wanted their social media started. And so I just started doing it, knowing pretty much nothing about social media. Like, I'm a clinician. I don't know how to do social media marketing. But along the way, one of the parents said that I wrote great copy, which I wasn't sure even what that meant. So I told her that I didn't copy it from anywhere. I actually wrote it.
I love that.
Yeah, I was 100% had no idea what copywriting was. And then she explained what copy was and copywriting. And then that started some Google searches, which then led me to the potential for copywriting. And through when we moved here, we didn't have childcare, and also the jobs were pretty limited because it's a very small town. And so I was looking for something different anyway. And that just cracked open the door to completely pivot out of healthcare and start my own business.
I love it. That's amazing. And I can relate so much because I started my career as actually a registered nurse in high risk labor and delivery and went
Mm-hmm.
the full opposite end to IT marketing, automation, and all that consulting fabulousness. So I can totally
Mm-hmm.
relate. So that's
Yeah.
really cool that you found a niche that you didn't even know existed, let alone that you were good at, and were
Yeah.
able to turn that into a successful business. So very,
Mm-hmm.
very cool.
Yeah. And I do think healthcare providers have a lot more skill in the area of like sales and marketing. We just don't give ourselves credit for it. Because every time you walk in a patient's room or a patient's home, you have to pretty much read the room. You have to use their language to communicate with them. And you have to, in some ways, sell yourself.
No,
I know
it's
with,
totally, go ahead.
sorry, with rehab anyway, when we walk in, we immediately get, in general, we usually get an eye roll and like, oh, therapy's here.
I'm
We're always
sure.
bringing hard work with us. So
Yeah.
we are salespeople every day.
No, you're absolutely right. And I wouldn't have even looked at it myself that way, even having been in the healthcare field, but you're absolutely right. From the constant assessment of your patients, that you're always
Mm-hmm.
looking at what could be wrong, what do they need? It's the same things when you flip it over to the sales world, that people are always looking at what is that gap? What is the need? What is that potential? And it's very, very similar. So I can definitely see how when you get that clarity in your mind of what you're actually doing and what skill set you're using, it can
Mm-hmm.
very easily and successfully be turned into more of a sales skill set to help advance your business. So that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. So, what was the journey like as you were starting your business over the past couple of years? Like, what has that been like for you?
Oh, it was kind of a slow journey because part of it happened during COVID, which
Mhm.
made everything more complicated, right? So we had two boys at home that we were homeschooling. We had completely pulled them out of school, so we weren't doing Zoom schooling. And so I was managing that and also trying to build a business on the side. And I mean, you just kind of time block your day. And I slowly built my skill set, got a few clients, and then started to refine my business so I wasn't writing all the kinds of copy. And now, let's see, like just over 2 years later from the initial actually starting my business, I write just sales pages and email sequences, mostly just sales copy. Sometimes I do like Facebook ads or some other copy types like that, but pretty much anything that is direct response related or funnel related is where I like to stay.
Totally. Yeah. And that's really hard for a lot of people, whether or not they're in the healthcare space, but to be able to take that skill that they have and that service that they provide and turn it into copy that resonates with their patients, right? Because they want more patients. And I know so many, nurse practitioners, healthcare practitioners, OTs, lots of people in the medical field that struggle with this of how do I get more patients? So what would you recommend to them? Where should they start when they're trying to grow their practice?
Yes, it definitely is a struggle for healthcare and clinical people to transition over, especially when they're starting their own business and they have to pitch themselves. Because when you're in a clinic, people just kind of naturally show up on your schedule and you don't have to worry about it most of the time. But when you own your own business, especially if it's slightly outside of the traditional, medical system, then there's just a lot more educating that has to happen with your audience. So I guess to start with, I would get very clear on the transformation that they're providing. Because if they know, like without a shadow of a doubt, what problem they're solving and what the journey looks like from that before and after, then they can speak to that journey. Because most people know what nurses are. That's a much more common thing. But as far as occupational therapists, people forever don't know what we do. It's like the Achilles heel of our profession. And so we are never selling occupational therapy. Like nobody really wants that. They don't know what it is. They don't know how it helps. Like nobody wants occupational therapy, which is probably true for a lot of other programs and a lot of other practitioners. If you just try to market the thing that you are, people don't necessarily want to buy that. But if you can identify the transformation and highlight that, then that's what people are going to be sold on. Whether that's like home safety and being able to stay in your home longer, maybe it is losing weight at a certain phase of life that has to do with like hormone balancing or lactation. I've worked with some lactation consultants and educators. You have to really identify what that journey is, and then you can market on that.
100%. And how would you find, or how have you found that storytelling plays into that? Is that a big part of what you do?
Yeah, it definitely is. Because case studies are a really good way to show that, and not in a formal, like stuffy type of case study way, like you would find in a professional journal.
Yeah.
Those are great, and they can go on the back of your website, but really just telling the story of the pain points without having to be, like sleazy or uncomfortable about it. But when you hold up a mirror and reflect somebody's problems back to them, then they understand that like you get it and you're a safe person to come to address your problems. Because if they think you don't even understand their problem, they aren't going to buy your program.
For sure.
They don't feel safe.
Yeah. And no, you're right. They need to feel heard and safe before they even trust you with everything else that they've got going on.
Yeah. And I do find a lot of people have been burned by the traditional medical system. And so you, as providers who are offering programs in this innovative way, maybe like through coaching or through online courses, you have to show them that that other way didn't work, not because it was their fault, Really in the copy. And a big part of the sales pages that I write is removing any blame or shame off of that person. Because if I feel like it's my fault that I'm having this health concern and I haven't been able to get over it, then I'm not going to step out and try to get help with it because I'm feeling that weight of the problem.
100%. So as people are thinking of the stories that they can tell, being in the healthcare field, a lot of times HIPAA comes into your brain. So how can you do that in a way that's not breaching HIPAA, or that you feel safe being able to tell those stories and not compromise patient data?
Well, with a lot of the people I work with, they are working under a coaching model. And so I can speak directly to the people who've gone through their program and get those outcomes and testimonials, and we can share them. But if you are working with people and have to like, you know, be mindful of HIPAA, I think it's good to pull a lot of similar stories and then you kind of blend them together, kind of like you were creating a case study for a student that you were training or something. You don't have to give them the exact details of one specific person, but when you merge together some stories, you can create a similar story, but it's not any one person's full story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So therefore it's based off of fact, right? Like it's a
Mm-hmm.
factually based story, but it's not any one person's story that you're sharing the details of, their
Mm-hmm.
life with the public. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
much safer approach.
Yeah. Or if you get consent, you can have them sign a
Mm-hmm.
waiver that says, yes, I would be happy to share my story with people. Especially when you frame it in a way that like you are such a success and I would love to highlight you and help other people just like you get out of that problem.
Yeah.
A lot of times people are willing to step up and share their story because they want other people to feel so much better like they do.
Yeah, and that's definitely the safest route to go, and
Mm-hmm.
to just talk to your patients, and you want to highlight the success that they've had. And people are usually very excited, as long as it's not too private of a matter, to be
Mm-hmm.
a spokesperson featured after they've experienced such success, and to help you advance your practice. So I think that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. And another thing I like to recommend for people when they're setting up their business or trying to set up a new offer, because this might be, they oftentimes people have their one-to-one practice and then they want to add on a virtual option, whether it's like group coaching or an online course. And I always like to set up the funnel backwards or to work on it backwards. So you work on, definitely know your transformation and where they're headed and where they're coming from. And then you can start by getting your email sequence squared away that leads you to the sale, and then step back a step and get that sales page and opt-in squared away, and then step back another step in the funnel and start working on social media to push traffic into that funnel. Because I see so many people just start with Instagram, and the dancing and the reels and pointing at things, but they don't understand why nobody's buying their course. And I'm like, well, you're just like going from Instagram and expecting them to go straight to the checkout page and buy it after watching just a couple of reels. But it's like, as you know, with automation, it's that whole journey that you want to bring them through. And then if you have it all set up, then when you drive traffic from social media, the automation takes over and does the nurturing for you, which is a beautiful thing.
It truly is. Yes. No, I absolutely love that. And I'm a big Stephen Covey fan. So I love beginning with the end in mind and then working your way backwards to getting people to that. But
Mm-hmm.
you're right. So many people start at the beginning and they don't really know where they're pushing people to. And then they wonder why people don't end up where they're trying to send them to, because there's like no clear pathway there. And people get lost and confused along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
So
that's
very
something
good.
I've oddly enough noticed ChatGPT does if you're trying to put in some prompts and tell it
Mhm.
to write social media posts. I was doing this the other day on a call just to like kind of show people how it works and what the pitfalls are. And it had them like ChatGPT was introducing the problem and kind of talked about it for just a brief minute. And then it instantly flipped to buy my course was the solution to all the problems. And I was like,
Of course.
yeah. I'm like, technically, yeah, your course is the solution, but in marketing, it's really not the solution. It's what's inside your course and what you're providing them that is going to help them. So
Yeah. And building that trust and relationship along the way so that they want to buy your course. It's not just like, here's a shiny object, go get it, because people will just turn around and walk away.
Yeah. Yeah. And people in the health and wellness industry are naturally relationship builders.
Right.
First thing we do is start building rapport and a relationship with somebody. And so if you think of your funnel and your automations as helping you build rapport and increase that relationship, it's a very natural way of selling to people.
Mm-hmm. And what have you found in the mindset shift, either with yourself or with your clients, of initially we all just want to help, right? Like that's just how we're wired. And ultimately you have to sell, and that can feel so icky depending on how you have been taught or learned how to do it. So what have you seen, successful for that?
Oh, that is such a thing in healthcare.
It is.
For
That's
sure.
just how we're wired.
Yeah, and it's probably in other industries too. I just don't have as much experience in other industries, but the biggest fear that almost every client comes to me with is, I don't want to sound salesy and I don't want to sound sleazy. Like, I just want to tell people it's here and they'll naturally come and take it.
Right.
I'm like, I love it, but you also have to invite them to buy it at some
Right.
point.
If
So
only it was that easy, right?
yeah. A lot of times it's just reframing it instead of like pushing it at somebody, and sales being so like pushy is you're just opening up the invitation. And if they don't know there's a solution, they can't get better. And so if you're not offering it, you're kind of leaving them high and dry. So I try to really reframe that and remind them that if they don't know your program exists and that they're a good fit for it, they will never get the help they need.
Yeah.
Especially being like, we live very rural. We have no specialists in the area really. And so like, I think of the people in my town and the people in the even smaller towns that are like in the surrounding area. Their best bet for expert care is going to be these online programs or online courses, because we have generalists all over. Even myself at the hospital, I was very much a generalist because I saw everything.
Yeah.
No matter what came in, it was ours to figure out. So I couldn't be like a Parkinson's expert or, niche down to just neuro or just ortho. I had to just know a little bit about everything. But I know that there's clinicians who are experts that would do a better job if they could get to these patients.
And truly, the more we can focus whatever it is we're offering, the better, the more successful we're going to be in whatever it is we're doing. Like if we're trying to do everything, and that includes bringing in the right team to support you, like with the sales copy, with the funnels, with the automation, like the more you can bring in people that complement your weaknesses, the more successful you're going to be as a practitioner and be able to serve your clients that much, or your patients that much better. Right.
Yeah. And I do think, from what I've noticed, healthcare and clinicians and health and wellness professionals struggle a little bit with the outsourcing. They want to do it all themselves with duct tape and TheraBand.
Again, it's how we're wired.
Yeah. So that part has been hard to convince them that, like, if it's not your zone of genius, you just need to let somebody else do it. And that's part of why I love sales copy so much, is it usually pays for itself pretty quickly. So they invest in a sales page, and then how it should work is once they start promoting that sales page and driving traffic to it, it pays for itself. And then they are continuing to generate revenue off of that.
Exactly.
I find that a much easier connection point and to get them rolling than to say like write blogs for them or writing other copy that's good long-term strategy, but they need that like quick return on their copy investment to get going.
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple ways that you help people, but I'm thinking specifically for the practitioners that are out there that are looking to expand their practice and don't want to add on more people, more overhead, right? Like, what are some things that they can do? And you mentioned courses as one, but like, what are some things that they can do and add to their practice that can actually bring in more revenue very quickly and not have to overextend themselves or bring in more headcount?
A lot of times that is either a group offer of some sort or the online course, because they can, if they identify the questions they're answering over and over and over and over again in their practice, then you want to package that up and be able to sell it to clients, even if it's a really low ticket offer. And I've heard of some people doing that as for their wait list. If you have a 6, 9, 12-month wait list, like lined up out your door, usually those people are not as worried about generating money on it, but they want to try to give people some like foundational knowledge before they can get them through the door in their practice. And so recording like a course or a program that people can work through can often work in that way. I also see people switch into, instead of the direct working with patients, or clients, they add like a coaching arm where they teach other practitioners how to get started. And that's much easier to scale because it's that coaching model, and you can help other people start businesses and launch. So a lot of my clients have been coaches for their practitioners themselves, and they, had their successful business, and then they went into coaching to help other practitioners set up their businesses.
Totally. Yeah. Another one I've seen people do, I don't know if you have also, but webinars is, create that webinar, and you can start to begin to build that rapport with potential patients and bring them in either with a free webinar or a low cost webinar or something like that to help introduce them to, here's your issue, here's the solution I have, here's how you get more help. And then, you can clone yourself that way and bring more people into your sphere without having to really truly clone yourself, because we haven't figured out how to do that yet.
Yeah. That's definitely letting the recording and the funnel work for you,
right,
to nurture and generate traffic and drive them closer to the sale. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
And if your webinar has a lot of value in it, that may be just what that person needed to make some improvements and move along, So either way, even if they don't convert into a client, but you provided enough value there to help somebody change a little bit of their life, then it still is a win.
Yeah. Yeah. And you had touched on that earlier. Just a thought that I had is, sales for us often feels so yucky, and it doesn't have to feel that way. Like, we're wired to want to help people. And that's what we're doing in this, is you want to help people. You want to provide that value, and you want to find the people that want your help. Like, you're not going to help everybody, and that's okay. So it's really a matter of sifting through the people that are out there to find your ideal clients, whatever they are, that whatever you're helping them with, they need you. They need to know that you exist. And the more you can bring in people like you, Krista, that can help them with that copy and getting the word out there, the more people you can help. And it's just a natural progression of growth. And you don't have to then feel like you're selling yourself. You're just really trying to find the people that you can help with the skill set that you have.
And part of that is deciding to narrow down just slightly.
Totally. And you can't help everybody.
Yeah. You probably see that a lot too with this audience is, I want to help everybody.
Yeah.
You're like, I love it, but where are we starting?
Right. We'll grow to that maybe someday, but like we need to start somewhere. Because otherwise, if you try to help everybody, you're really going to hit nobody. And then you're going to wonder why things aren't working.
Yeah. Because your message is just like shouting all these different things to people, and they're like, I don't really know what you do though.
Yeah.
Because if you focus it down on just those specific pain points and frustrations that they're day after day after day dealing with, they'll resonate with that and raise their hand, instead of you having to pull them in with some sales tactic,
Yeah. Yeah. And another good thought with that too is, it's easy to get so close. Like, we're so ingrained in what we do day to day that we know what we do, right? But they don't know what we do. And if you take that 1,000-foot view of either your social media, your website, whatever it is you've got out there, and say, would somebody who's never heard of me before looking at this know exactly what I do in an instant or not? Right. And that tells you a lot of what people gather about, what it is that you offer.
For sure. I even ran into that in my own marketing recently, because two people reached out who I have quite a bit of business experience and online marketing experience, but they both asked, like, well, what exactly is a sales page and where would I put one? And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't back my marketing up far enough to get to the basic information of what a sales page is and why they would need one in their business. And I was like, my bad. I'm gonna add that into my marketing now.
No, and that's awesome. And I always think if one person has asked the question, 1,000 others have the same question. So like your best bet is keep, building out that frequently asked questions, or your marketing or whatever, to educate people of what it is that you do.
Yeah. They understood a website really well.
Right.
But then when it came to sales page, they were like, I don't know where that fits in. Or even landing pages, because those do get very confusing. And the jargon in the marketing world is like kind of all over the place.
It is.
And it's intimidating when you're coming from healthcare, that jargon like the back of your hand. And then you transition over and you're like, now I don't know what anybody's talking about anymore.
Yeah. No, I totally. And we have to remind ourselves to really put it in everyday terms, like, so that everybody can understand what we're saying. And it's easy. And I find myself doing it all the time. I can hear myself go off into techie speak and I'm like, all right, pull it back in, like, speak English again.
Yeah. And that's what specialists do with their information. They've learned it so well that they think everybody understands it by now.
And they don't.
Like, you're such a specialist in this area. You have to back it way back down.
Yeah.
And speak to people who like don't quite get it yet.
Yeah. So that's also another perk of having you involved in the situation is you can capture their voice, but help them put it into English, right? So that people can really understand it.
Yeah. And even though I didn't specialize in every area, like I've worked with pelvic health people, I've worked with lactation, I've worked with neuro. I didn't specialize in any of those areas, but I understand enough about it to know what the clinician is telling me and then to translate it without losing what they actually mean.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And even just go ahead.
Sorry. I've consulted with some companies who are marketing to clinicians, and it's always funny when I look at their marketing and I was like, you almost had it, but you can tell you have never put gloves on and worked with anyone in a hospital because they were just half a step off.
Yeah.
And so when I tell them, I'm like, any clinician who reads this won't trust you because it's just not quite right. And so they think like you don't understand it all. That's where our brains go, like, you know, and I don't want to point out any examples because obviously that would point at the companies.
All right, fine. I won't ask for one then.
I know. They're like
I so want to, but that's okay.
No, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. And I have worked with them and they were totally open to the perspective. So consulting with companies like that is really fun because you're like, you almost have this message, but that's not how it works in the real hospital room or in-home healthcare. And then once you show them, they go, oh.
So I'll give an example. So it's like when I used to watch ER all those years ago, and they would go racing in there to the room and they're splurting blood everywhere and they don't have gloves or they don't have a mask or they don't have whatever. And it's like, oh my God, that would never happen. And then, you're like, this is just crap. So
and you feel very skeptical, very skeptical about the whole thing because they don't even understand like the core of it.
Right. Exactly.
So that's where like bigger businesses have to watch out, or product related businesses when they're marketing to healthcare professionals, because we're a very skeptical crowd if you don't have your marketing right.
Skeptical and cynical and lots of other things that go with it. But yes, we are unique. It's all good. But it's funny how those skills they help you along the way. Like I said, I started as a registered nurse in high risk labor and delivery and shifted to IT marketing consulting and ended up with IT consulting for pharmaceutical companies. So it literally went full circle of, I know the healthcare speak, I know the techie speak, let's put them together, and was very successful in that. And now I take that experience and get to help other people, which is really cool. But
which is such a golden nugget for anybody who's in healthcare and like kind of thinking about looking at transitioning out and what they can do with their skill set. There's endless possibilities.
So let's talk about that for a minute, because I know so many nurses throughout my career that and I hate to say this, if we're given an opportunity, they're burnt out. Like they want to get out, they want to do something else. So I took the techie route, you took the copywriting route, which is awesome. Like, what other things do you see that, for those people listening thinking, God, I need a change?
I commiserate with them very much. There's a lot of non-clinical groups that I started like looking into and looking at what people do. I knew for me that I was not going to go to the insurance side. I see a lot of people go that direction and do some sort of reviewer, consulter, something like that on the insurance side.
Which is one, right? That is a thing.
Yeah, it is an option. And it is like a job that you hire on and you're an employee. And like a lot of people are very happy with that. So there always is that option. But I feel like our skill sets go beyond just being able to review other healthcare information. We can consult with toy companies, with like aging in place things, Lots of consulting comes to mind, and also just marketing, and people can write books, they can create courses. I would have to look at I didn't look too far into other careers where you could hire into a business when I was doing my search, just because I knew I didn't want full time, because we had the kids at home and we had no childcare options at the time. So like, that's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And there's lots of things out there for those people listening and thinking about that. I mean, I have friends that have they wanted out of bedside nursing, but still love nursing, and were able to shift and help, essentially, I will say, frame out the software that the nurses use on the bedside. So taking that clinical experience and helping to make a huge impact, she was able to really map that out as it was becoming a more cohesive computerized, system, which has transitioned over the years too, of course. But like, when you see gaps in your day-to-day nursing practice, and I'm speaking nursing just from my own experience, but OT as well, or any healthcare field that you're in, take that advantage and speak up, and you might be surprised where that leads you. And you might be able to transition into something that obviously clicked in your brain, and you can use those skills and help other people, and maybe make a shift or a pivot out of what you don't want to be doing day to day into something that you enjoy more than you are right now. And I'm not knocking nurses, because I love them.
And we
I
need
spent
them.
11 years doing it. Like, I'm not knocking healthcare, but like, I also know you get burnout after a while. So you gotta look out for your health.
And it's so easy to think that you're trapped in it, that I have this medical degree, it's a specialized degree, and that's the only thing I can do with it. Like, that's kind of the story I see told over and over and over again in those groups. And if you get with somebody who does like re-careering or resume rewriting, they can pull out everything that you have experience in and all those skills you have, and put that on your resume, instead of saying like, I was a treating occupational therapist for this many years at this place. Like, companies look at that and they don't know what that means. I also worked with a company that helps veterans re-career after service. And when I was doing the research for that and helping write for them, I realized it's really kind of the same at its core, because they have all their jargon and it all makes sense to them what those different ranks and levels and tasks mean. But when they bring that to a civilian employer, it doesn't make any sense. And when your resume doesn't make sense, like, as an interviewer, you wouldn't want to look dumb asking questions. So it's easier to just pass it on and not even bring you in for an interview. So it kind of comes back to copywriting and speaking the language of your audience.
Totally. And
You
helping
have to
them
market yourself.
helping them to visualize you in that role, and not getting stuck, both from the sales pages to your resume. It's the same exact thing of visualize that solution, visualize you in that role, visualize you helping them, and then you're a natural fit.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. So looking over the year ahead, what would you say is the most life-changing goal for you this year?
This year, I am hoping to get a semi-passive income stream up and running. I did the beta testing last year, and then it just got put on the back burner with, life. It happens. And so my goal is to get one or two, we'll see kind of how it goes, of those passive income streams going that support the people who can't quite afford my business, like, services yet. Because there's so many clinicians who are starting a business and they are right at that very beginning level, and they're not ready to invest thousands of dollars into a sales page or email sequences. And so if I can have a supported option for them to do it themselves, that connects all the sales copy techniques and information, but also weaves in that healthcare understanding, I really want to create that for them.
That's huge. Yeah.
To support them at a very budget friendly price. So they can get going and they can start helping people and start growing their business. And then if they need to down the line, they can circle back and have done for you services. But if they haven't started that cycle yet, then they're not ready for, a full scale sales page.
Yeah. Yeah. And the planning at the beginning is so critical of getting, like we were talking about, getting that focus of where you're headed, what are you doing in your business, so that you can build the pieces around it to head that direction. But you got to pick that direction first.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I haven't landed on exactly which one is going to be on the, it's either going to be about the websites, like getting your very first minimum viable website up, or it's going to be a sales page for the people who have the online programs, or it might be about emails. We'll see.
All right. I think we need to do a poll. So anybody listening, if you want to drop a comment,
Yes.
let us know which would be your favorite and what
Yes,
you vote
tell me
for.
what you need.
That's awesome.
So many ideas and so little time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you got to go with what people are asking for and will help them the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's so standard with entrepreneurs, and you want to do so much and you have so many ideas. So narrowing it down is important. Outsourcing pieces is very important, because there's no way I could
100%.
get everything done by myself and set up everything to launch a product. I mean, I could, but then I wouldn't be taking client work.
Right.
So
Trying to balance them both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So looking over your multiple careers and obviously your family and everything else you've got going on, how do you define success? What does that look like to you?
Ooh, good question. I definitely, my definition of success starts with the family, because when that part of my life goes off the rails, then nothing else feels good. Like,
So true.
I want my children to be regulated, to have attention when they need it, I really always want to be available if anything ever comes up that they need to talk about, if they have emotions they need to process, like being there for them and helping them develop into like wonderful human beings is my main goal. So that's a huge part of defining success for me. And then that extra layer on top of it is having the business be profitable and be able to support what we want to do in our lives and expand enough that we can then start making a bigger impact with it. My goal is to bring in enough income to be able to then pour that income back out into like the community and the school and whatnot. So
I love it.
That's kind of like a layered success for me.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it. And so many people I talk to, it has nothing to do with the dollar figure, which I love. Like it comes to personal satisfaction and your life and your sanity and things coming to alignment and like just feeling like they work, and that's more success than chasing a dollar. Although that helps, but
Yeah. And also not feeling guilty about earning money and earning good money, because with good income, you can also make a great impact on people and in your community. And I'm sure there's all kinds of statistics about women, especially what we do with our money and how we pour it back out and make an impact in our community for other people. So I do try to bring that in when I'm working with clients, that like it's okay to sell and earn more, because what are you planning to do with that money?
Right.
Half the time they want to start a nonprofit. So
yeah,
those are not bad intentions at all.
Right. But you have to have the income to do that.
Yeah.
So if you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you say to them?
Oh, wow. That is a big question. I don't know. I guess what's coming to mind first is to not limit yourself, to like take those small calculated risks to start growing or chasing a dream that you have, and then just keep taking bigger and bigger steps. But you have to take the first teeny tiny scary step first in order to make any progress.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. I mean, if you never take that first step, you can't make the bigger steps. So I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So how can listeners best support you in your work? Where can they find you online?
I am on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, and it's Krista Frahm Agency, Krista. The last name is Frahm, Frahm. And I also, it's kristaframagency.com is my website. So it's all pretty consistent all the way across the board.
There you go. And we'll have all the links below so everybody can find them and come check you out.
And I would love for people to follow along on Instagram if they're not quite ready to, jump into a project yet. And I also have an email list where I share marketing tips, copywriting tips. There's a sales page opt-in, a sales page tip opt-in on my website that you can join.
Awesome. Awesome. Yep. We'll have all the links below. So thank you, Krista. I'm so glad you're on with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a fun conversation and I hope it helped a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you found value in this episode, please do share it. That's how people find us. And you can find me at sevenfigurebuilder.com. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.